The police falsely arrested him during a medical emergency and left him to die. On November 16, 2024, Kingsley left his job at the post office before his shift ended, complaining of a headache and decreased vision. That evening, Kingsley ran a red light, veered onto oncoming traffic, and drove his vehicle onto the center median. Around 10:44 p.m., Kingsley was pulled over by Eagan Police Sergeant Joseph Mosing. Kingsley appeared confused, could not articulate or complete a sentence or thought, was unable to state his name, where he was from, or where he was going, did not smell of alcohol, and there was no drugs or alcohol found in the car. Two other Eagan policemen arrived, including Officer Martin Jensen, who is especially trained as a drug recognition evaluator. Officer Mosing told Officer Jensen, "Before you got here, I was like, is this dude having a stroke?" Before Jensen's body cam audio goes silent. Jensen and Mosing are accused of muting their body cameras, which is a violation of the department's policy. But a third officer's camera was rolling, and it caught audio that theirs didn't. Officer Mosing told Officer Jensen that he did not smell alcohol and was still not convinced that this isn't medical related, more than impairment related. DRE officer did not properly evaluate Kingsley and actually said would just be a whole bunch of wasted time. I don't know if the police did a breathalyzer test because they didn't say. Police call out EMTs to draw his blood for a blood alcohol test, and even the EMTs did not properly examine him. 17 minutes into the traffic stop, Officer Jensen and Mosing arrested Kingsley while sitting in the back of the cruiser. An officer asked Kingsley questions that he could not even answer because he could barely speak. And I don't mean like slobbering, drunk, slurring. I mean he could not think. He was genuinely confused, like he couldn't complete the sentence. Officer Jensen and Mosing took him to the Eagan Police Department headquarters, where he remained handcuffed while the officers waited for a judge to return the search warrant for Kingsley's blood. Officer Jensen created more danger for Kingsley by falsely reporting that he was there with one adult male and had no issues. On booking, a jail staffer noted incorrectly that Kingsley had a language barrier and could not answer a medical questionnaire, and it could not be completed, even though Kingsley spoke English. Though Kingsley could not walk through his own power, the deputies escorted him to a holding cell and left him there alone. After about 15 minutes, Kingsley stumbled to the toilet area of the cell, fell backwards onto the toilet, and soon collapsed onto the floor. Kingsley lay there for hours on the floor, foaming out the mouth and urinating in his pants as multiple deputies came to the door and even conducted well-being checks. They saw him like this and still checked okay on every single well-being check they conducted that night. After hours of laying on the floor, a nurse and guard entered the holding cell and took Kingsley's vital signs. Jail staff called for an ambulance, and EMTs arrived just before 5 a.m. on November 17th. Kingsley was transported to a hospital in Hastings, where a CT scan found massive intracerebral bleeding. He was then transferred to the United Hospital in St. Paul, where he was declared brain dead. Doctors disconnected him from life support on November 19th. The Ramsey County medical examiner determined that he died from an intracerebral hemorrhage, and neither the hospital's toxicology screen nor the medical examiner's post-mortem report found any drugs or alcohol in his system. That is straight up medical neglect. Y'all killed this man. This part's really going to piss you off, so prepare yourself. In a statement, the city of Eagan says that while Kingsley's death is tragic, he was not exhibiting an objectively serious medical condition that was obvious to lay persons at the time. He was in Eagan's officer's custody, and there was no indication that he required emergent medical treatment. Really, because multiple officers walked up, saw him laying face first on the floor, unconscious, foaming at the mouth and peeing in his pants, and they left him there. That's negligence. They further added that Kingsley exhibited signs of drug intoxication during the traffic stop and was asked and denied having any medical conditions that could explain his behavior, and was transported to jail after spending 17 minutes in the presence of EMS professionals. If EMT spent 17 minutes with this man and couldn't tell something was wrong with him, they need to be fired. It doesn't matter how long he was in their presence, because they damn sure weren't doing their jobs. His brain was hemorrhaging. He wouldn't be able to answer your questions properly anyways. The officer even said, "Before you got here, I was like, is he having a stroke?" Because they knew something was up. So why didn't they take him to the hospital? Either they just didn't give a shit, or it was straight up racism. They pull over drunk Karens every day, and all she's got to do is yell, "I'm having a panic attack," or "You're hurting my arm," and they'll rush her to the hospital to get treatment. But you didn't take him when there were obvious signs. Y'all neglected this man in more than one way, and you killed him. He died over a crime he didn't even commit. Well, now Kingsley's family has filed a lawsuit. Plaintiffs allege that Officer Jensen failed to go through the drug recognition evaluation and ignored the acceptable fact that Kingsley was suffering from a medical emergency observable from the moment he was stopped. Alleges that police and jail staff mistook symptoms of a major stroke for drug impairment and let Kingsley languish for hours without medical treatment. I hope his family wins their lawsuit. Now let's take a moment to remember 50-year-old Kingsley Bonepen. Kingsley was a hard worker who worked to support his family, and he'd been at the post office for years. He was a stand-up employee. Kingsley was loved by all, and he had a reputation of helping his family, friends, and neighbors.